Hey, Mark Shepard, honesthypnosis.com, and today we're going to go a little off the path of the usual, and I have a story that I want to read to you. It's a story that is supposedly a children's story, but it's not really. It's a story for the grown-ups, really, who are reading it to the kids. It's called The Big Orange Splot by Daniel Manus Pinkwater, and Daniel Pinkwater is an occasional, if not regular, NPR commentator. You'll hear him sometimes on Saturday mornings, or at least I haven't listened to NPR in a long time, but I used to hear him there. And my first exposure to this story was a woman who did this amazing puppet show, like with all these different characters all on a stage strapped to her shoulders, and she literally told this story, and it was amazing. I forget her name. It was 20 years ago. But this story has stuck with me ever since. And I realize that this is the story of all of us here on Honest Hypnosis. This is the story of all of us who are seeking to transform our lives, seeking to reach into that place in our being where we are not constantly worried about what other people think, and we're following our passion, our pursuits. So I'm going to read it to you, and here it is. It's short. The Big Orange Splot by Daniel Manus Pinkwater. Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all the houses were the same. I'll hold it up for you, just like I do for kids when I do kid programs. Of course, I don't read my stories when I do kid programs. I act them out. But anyway, Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all the houses were the same. He liked it that way. So did everybody else on Mr. Plumbean's street. This is a neat street, they would say. Then one day, I don't know if you can see that. I'll move it in a little closer. Hopefully it's not blurry. One day, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbean's house. He was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped the can, no one knows why, right over Mr. Plumbean's house. You having fun yet? It made a big orange splot on Mr. Plumbean's house. Oh, too bad, everybody said. Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house again. I suppose I will, said Mr. Plumbean. But he didn't paint his house right away. I like him already. He looked at the big orange splot for a long time, then he went about his business. The neighbors got tired of seeing that big orange splot, and someone said, Mr. Plumbean, we wish you'd get around to painting your house. Okay, said Mr. Plumbean. A little passive-aggressive on Mr. Plumbean's part, telling him okay, but not really doing it. Anyway, that's my commentary. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. I love that. He painted at night because it was cooler. I do a lot of things at night, too. There's something about the evening. When the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange splot was still there. Then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. In the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. Their houses were all the same, but Mr. Plumbean's house was like the rainbow. It was like a jungle. It was like an explosion. So there's Mr. Plumbean painting, and there's his house after he got done. There was the big orange splot, and there were little orange spots, and there were stripes, and there were pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. The people said Mr. Plumbean has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stack, and dropped his stopper. They went away muttering. Mutter, 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 mutter. I love that. That day, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools. That night, he built a tower on top of his roof, and he painted a clock on the tower. So there's the house before the tower, and there's the house with the tower. Go, Mr. Plumbean. Rocket, dude. The next day, the people said, Plumbean has gushed his mush, lost his marbles, slipped his hawser. I like that one a lot. They decided they would pretend not to notice. That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobabs, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. There's that picture. I don't know if you can see the other one too, but hopefully I'm doing this right. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Mr. Plumbean swinging in a hammock between two palm trees. They saw an alligator lying in the grass. Mr. Plumbean was drinking lemonade. See, I like this guy. I just like him, you know? There's just something about Mr. Plumbean you gotta like, because he's doing his thing, baby. Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a neat street. Plumbean, what have you done to your house? The people shouted. My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams, Mr. Plumbean said. There he is. Like Mr. Plumbean's chilling. The people went away. They asked the man who lived next door to Mr. Plumbean to go and have a talk with him. Tell him that we all liked it here before he changed his house. Tell him that his house has to be the same as ours so we can have a neat street. The man went to see Mr. Plumbean that evening. They sat under the palm trees drinking lemonade and talking all night long. And there they are talking all night long. Early the next morning, the man went out to get lumber and rope and nails and paint. When the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbean. Do you see where we're going with this? What have you done to your house? They shouted at the man. Here's his house. There's a close-up. My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be and it looks like all my dreams, said the man who had always loved ships. He's just like Plumbean, the people said. He's got bees in his bonnets, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle. Then one by one they went to see Mr. Plumbean late at night. They would sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade and talk about their dreams. And whenever anybody visited Mr. Plumbean's house, the very next day that person would set about changing his own house to fit his dreams. And we got your balloon house, we got your Taj Mahal looking house. Pretty sweet stuff over here. We got your castle house, we got your Greek temple looking house. Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbean and his neighbors, the stranger would say, "This is not a neat street." Then all the people would say, "Our street is us and we are it. Our street is where we like to be and it looks like all our dreams." That, my friend, is the story of the Big Orange Splot. And I don't know if you need me to explain it or anything, but it's kind of obvious. Be who you really want to be. Do what you really want to do. Live the life you really want to live. And let's stop letting the opinions of others stop us. People really don't mean to stop you from living your dreams with their opinions and their approvals and all that kind of stuff. But there's a point in our life when we have to stop seeking that. And I think that's, for me, what the story really indicates is that, you know what? Follow your heart. Follow your dreams. Listen to that longing that comes up every day and just won't go away no matter how much you try to be reasonable and logical and responsible. Right? And the word responsible, I could do a whole course on that. Respond able to respond. Response able. And you want to be able to respond to the world in a fluid, resourceful way. However, we must realize that it is between our ears where we create the world. So today, create a world that is beautiful. Create a world that is your world. Create a life just for today. That's all you have to worry about is just today. Find 1 or 2 or 3 small things you can do to live your dream today. Thank you very much. This is Mark Shepard, honesthypnosis.com. And I love you. I believe in you, and I will see you on the inside.